the skirts, particularly in America. People were weaponizing secrets that they had known for years against their political opponents. I saw again breaking news. A great leader had died, and much like Methuselah's death shall bring, this one's death was to announce the beginning of my year of great changes. Praise the Lord.
Charlie Kirk is clearly racist. Watch this.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
What we're seeing right now is not the news, it's the narrative. Now, I want to put this in context because I think my following dropped by almost 10,000 or so people. I can't remember the exact amount. Since posting on Charlie Kirk, it seems to have sparked up a lot of controversy, especially with the racist squad. He's a racist. More on this in a minute, but now I want to insert this video in its full context. Watch.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
It hits personally. And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now thinking about that.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
I want to be as blunt as possible, because now I'm connecting two dots. Wait a second. The CEO just said that he's forcing that a white qualified guy is not going to get the job. So I see this guy. He might be a nice person. I say, boy, I hope he's not a Harvard-style affirmative action student that has points for, and he landed half of his flight simulator trials.
That's the thing.
It's such a good point.
And by the way,
so fair.
it creates like unhealthy thinking patterns. I don't want to think that way. No. Yeah. And no one should.
Now, we have created a world where we have been slow cooked into madness and stupidity. You know the old saying, if you take a frog and put it in hot water, the frog will jump out immediately. But if you put the frog in cool water and start to slowly boil it, the frog won't even know it was cooking or dying. And this is the state I've noticed of our morality in the world today. The left has created an environment in which it is possible to even think like this. We went through an entire period where it felt like planes were dropping out of the sky, and there was a point that DEI was the movement, the recent movement of the left. And DEI seems to be an approach to life in which you give people certain access based off of a philosophy of the left, where doesn't seem to be equity or fairness because of disadvantage, and you now give people positions that they may not even be qualified for, but you're basically doing the opposite of Martin Luther King. I'm not judging you on the content of your character, but I am judging you on the color of your skin. And so in its context, Charlie Kirk was simply saying he doesn't really care that it's a black pilot or a white pilot. All he cares about is, are you qualified to fly the plane? Which seems to me to be within the realm of common sense and reason. Now, look, before I give my prophetic perspective, and there is a lot of prophetic perspective that has gone into this, and these are things that it felt like the Spirit of God was alluding to in some of my prophetic words beforehand, and I'm not saying I mentioned Charlie's name or anything like that, but I do review my prophetic words and it seems clear to me at times that the Holy Spirit was really highlighting some things. And if these things are true, then what comes next, according to the prophetic timetable that the Lord has revealed to me, is also very clear. My concern has always been for a long time. Now, I'm black. I've experienced real racism. I grew up in Essex where people would scream out their window, gorilla or monkey, and make noises and sounds as they were doing it. So I've seen direct and blatant racism. I grew up in Scotland at a time in the early 90s where I was perhaps, me and my twin brother and my sister were perhaps felt like the only black people in the whole nation. Yet the majority of people were lovely and welcoming. Obviously, you have the fringe minority who are racist. And my concern is we only get to use racism a few times. And when you keep screaming at everything as if it's racist just because it has white skin, and I do believe that that's also philosophy, that just because you're white, you suddenly have this problem of being a racist, because in the world of that we've been slowly cooked into, which is a world of cross-sectionalism. Many people don't even know these terms, that their way of thinking has been created for them. It's called social engineering. And for a long time, society's been engineered. It's been cooked quite literally by Satan. First, we heard the cross-sectionalist argument that is the current teaching across university campuses and colleges around the world. Our next group of intellectuals have been taught how to think. And in this, you have a victim Olympic. Right at the top of the victim Olympic, I think you have the black woman. And at the very lowest level of life, the scums of the universe are white men, apparently. And so we have been slowly cooked to believe this, to the point that it doesn't even matter what Charlie Kirk said. To be honest, he could have been the nicest human being on the planet who just spoke the truth and decided to negotiate. The real problem that nobody's saying is the message came in white skin. The message was truthful, but unfortunately, the message came in white skin. And to be honest, that's what makes him controversial. I guess controversial is now truth. That's all it is. Because they say the truth will set you free, but I think first it will pee you off before it sets you free. It's going to annoy you before it sets you free. And I think Jesus was the perfect example of that. We crucified him for telling the truth. And so here was a clip I saw earlier today that was very interesting to me. It was about this African-American guy basically describing that Charlie Kirk was right. What he said was true. Watch this clip.
Offensively. Mm-hmm. Kirk literally said that after slavery, around 1920 and 1940, blacks was better off back then. Okay. Per capita, blacks had more ownership and more power back then. Sure. That is absolutely true. Right. However, we have to understand, when someone says something to rile you up, listen closely to what they're actually saying in context. And of course, social media gonna do what social media. I got on y'all ass about cutting up and putting it out to push a certain narrative. So when you make a clip, perfect. I'll sit here and say this. You know what? Back in the 20s and 30s and even the 40s, when Black Wall Street was doing its thing, I think we need to get our ish together as a community and get back to that and own more property so we can have more political power. I said the same thing Kirk just said. Mm-hmm. But I said it to motivate you, and I didn't say it to piss you off. Now, if I tell you the truth to purposely piss you off, I can kind of push you to a certain narrative that I'm trying to fuel over here. And then when something happens, I can say, well, I was telling the truth. Y'all was big banking back then. Y'all had your own banks. Y'all had your own everything. The government was mad at y'all because y'all was rivaling Wall Street in New York. Y'all were so powerful that the government had to come in and tear y'all down. So was it what he said or how he said it? Now, to support him, this is not by any means a cap or support or an excuse for Kirk living the life that he lived and dying how he died. He knew what he signed up for. I'm saying he said what he said so that his base that was ignorant would support. Because all they thought was, yeah, back then, black folks was in their own little area and we was in our own little area minding our business and they wasn't bothering us and we wasn't bothering them.
So this gentleman basically said, and I don't know him, I don't want to disrespect him in any way, but he basically said Charlie Kirk said the truth, but he said it in a hurtful way. I don't know that there's any easy way to say the truth, but I certainly, watching his clips, Saw a man who tried to say the truth as respectfully as possible. I even saw a clip of him talking to a transgender person and telling the entire crowd, please do not laugh, do not mock. He